Listen, today we are continuing our conversation about kids and social media from yesterday's show, if you caught it. Big development here in Canada. So Ontario school boards are suing TikTok, Meta, and Snapchat for $4.5 billion. So a bunch of school boards getting together because they say that these companies have harmed, and social media specifically has harmed children. So boards in Toronto, Peel, and Ottawa, as well as the Toronto Catholic Board, allege that these platforms have negatively rewired how children learn, how they behave, and has disrupted the way that schools are meant to operate. This is big. This is huge. It's so huge. So here's the thing, though. This is going to require some moolah, something that a lot of school boards don't have a lot of. So is this the right way to be using these resources?
That's such a solid question, but I feel like this headline is great because it got everybody's eyebrows up. Like, oh, yeah, $4.5 billion. But let's be honest, I have more questions than answers when it comes to this situation. So say in a perfect world, they win this lawsuit. You get your $4.5 billion. How is this going to help the kids? Where is that money getting allocated? Because are the children still going to be able to be on those apps, bring their phone to school? I don't understand this money, and it's the first time we have a school board actually suing these social media giants.
To hurt them.
They're trying to hurt them, but you're trying to hurt a very rich company that is already making money like hand over fist all around the world. So I don't know if this is it. And I'm thinking, wouldn't the smarter approach be to talk to the federal government about regulations? Because the problem with most of these apps is they were able to just to come into any country and just do whatever, right? And do whatever they want. And there was very little regulation. And this is what we're dealing with right now because there was no regulation for the children. So I know a lot of countries, like I talked about China yesterday having a lot of regulations, and also in Europe. And in the UK, they actually are doing something about this because it's an issue for them as well. And the government is looking into different options to regulate the online world and even considering an outright ban for children under 16. And I think if we're having these real issues for children, the ban sounds better than a $4.5 billion, which I don't understand where it's going and how it helps the kids.
Okay. What do you guys think? What do you guys think?
I don't get it.
Oh, God. I kind of like, it feels like a David and Goliath kind of story. It also feels impossible, like that they will succeed. Like it feels like this could, how can they prove that social media is singularly responsible for the problems that they're accusing social media of causing? So then it just comes back to the money. And I feel like I know so many teachers who spend money from their own pockets just to buy school supplies.
Exactly.
So if you're making a point, bravo, but it just feels like a really expensive point at the cost of others, you know, to make.
I don't know. To me, when I read this headline today, I was so happy. I was just so relieved as a parent. Well, for multiple reasons, because even if it is only right now to get other boards on board with this idea, if this starts to catch on, the message that it sends to government, to the makers of these apps, to the parents, is this definitely is not okay. And even though there's been little rumblings of that here and there, you know, the United States Surgeon General did a report in 2023 and cited a profound risk of harm to adolescent mental health. And so these are not new conversations. There's been a lawsuit in the US, more than 1,200 families are pursuing against social media companies. This needs to grow. It needs to get bigger. We've seen the documentaries. We know that the makers themselves in many cases said, we know these are addictive. I can even speak from my own personal experience. I had a burnout leave in the fall. Many of you know, but I've shared a lot about that journey. And as part of that recovery period, I took myself off social media for over 2 months. I was like,
that's big, that's big.
It was not a full piece, but it was a piece. And I can tell you, I was talking with my therapist yesterday, as I've been reintroducing it slowly, I have noticed the difference to my sense of peace and well-being. And I'm an adult who lived a huge part of my life without these things. How can we expect young people with developing brains and developing social networks to protect themselves from the algorithm, from the addictive nature?
I love everything you just said, but
we're looking to the parents to do that, though?
How are the parents supposed to battle against these behemoths? I'll tell you a story. What these kids can do is, even if there's regulations, so you're not allowed to be on an app until you're over 13. all you have to do is say, I am over 13. There's no checks and balances there,
I'm
right?
not saying that the kids should be the ones who are policing themselves, because we know how that's going to go. I'm saying for the parents to kind of take some accountability to be like, you know what, I'm taking your phone at 7 p.m. You don't get it till the morning.
That's like saying, hold on. I mean, I get what you're saying, because I do believe
there
that
has to be a little bit of
there has to be some accountability, but I think you're trying to say to one parent, to a company or multiple companies that have hired psychologists, they have hired behavioral scientists to actually build and design these apps to make them addictive to children. So you're trying to tell one parent, these companies have become billionaires because they are biohacking our brains. Let's call it what it is. There were 50 psychologists, very influential psychologists, that wrote a letter to the American Psychological Association 4 years ago, and they were sounding the alarm. You have to, on behalf of the psychology of our children and their mental health, say on ethical standards, you have to stop targeting children on social media. And now, me as a parent, my brain has been biohacked. But we're adults. This is doing something totally different to our children's brains. And as a former educator, there's so much expected of teachers. We're not just supposed to teach anymore. We have to be psychologists now. We have to be nurses. We have to be pseudo parents. We have to manage things happening in classrooms. It is too much for a teacher whose job it is to educate you to also be your everything and say no to big tech. It's too much. It's too much.
Just one quick hope. Just lastly, I know, whatever, we're moving on. But in the 90s, it took a while, but the U.S. successfully won a major lawsuit against the country's 4 biggest tobacco companies who agreed to pay billions of dollars in damages for their products.
I know we have to move on, but that's a little bit different because we're talking about healthcare and you can quantify that, right? We have so many people.
Mental health is a part of healthcare.
No, I understand, but it's harder to quantify. It was easier to go after them because it's like we have a number of people with this cancer. Where did this cancer come from? What does that cost for chemo?
I bet
and
you
this is going to be
the data will be there.
Trickier.
You can start to track the mental health and the anxiety levels of teenagers as a direct result in correlation with social media rising.
I think the answer is all hands on deck. It's not going to be going after just the tech giants or going after parents or going after teachers. It's everybody coming on board saying we have to change things. We have to do things better for the children. And I think that's the only way forward. I don't know if this lawsuit, what it's going to do, but we'll see.
Hey there, what did you think? Drop your comments below and join the conversation. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you can find more on everything from food and fashion to pop culture and current events. See you soon.